The revolution is lit.
Omali Yeshitela. My name is the Director of Agitation and Propaganda for the African People's Socialist Party, as well as your MC for this morning. Today's study is highly important, and we encourage you right now to share this stream, invite your friends and family to it, so that as many of our people can be involved in this discussion. This week, the chairman reconvenes his study of dialectical materialism, with the reading of Maurice Cornforth's Materialism and the Dialectical Method, Chapter 9, titled The New and the Old, pages 86 through 92, and Chapter 10, The Negation of Negation, pages 93 through 99. You can find the study materials in the Facebook and YouTube descriptions, and you can also view the previous studies of dialectical materialism with the chairman on the Burning Spear TV YouTube page. We ask that you begin to prepare your questions regarding the topic so the chairman can expound more on certain ideas. To deepen our understanding of dialectical materialism, I proudly introduce my leadership, the brilliant theoretician behind African internationalism, the theory developed with the understanding of the dialectical materialist method, leading to practical solutions for African and college, Chairman Omali Yeshitela.
Uhuru brothers and sisters and comrades, I want to welcome everybody to this study. And I would like to begin by reminding everyone that we're here not as consumers of information, not as people who want to become better barbershop debaters or something like that. Our objective is to really escalate the development, ideological and political development of the African People's Socialist Party and the Uhuru movement. It is extremely important for us because our objective is to actually govern, that is to say, to achieve total absolute political power over Africa, over the extended African world where African people have been forcibly dispersed against our will, and to do this as a part of a revolutionary project that involves the masses, the great mass of human beings who have been expropriated and are currently being exploited and oppressed by a social system, capitalism, that was born as a world system at the expense of the vast majority of the people on the planet Earth. And this is extremely important. All kinds of events are occurring in the world today that demonstrate with greater clarity the depth and extent of the crisis of imperialism, the social system itself. There's a debate that's happening in the world among elitists who are now attempting through these debates to determine who is going to rule the world, who is going to govern the world. Right now, it is a question of whether it will be the United States or China, or with some of them, these elitists, thinking representatives of the ruling class, trying to assume the possibility of China and the US might even do it together. That's the way it looks today. During another era of deep, pronounced imperialist crisis, we've seen this discussion revolve around Russia or the Soviet Union and the United States. There is no place where this discussion even assumes that African people ourselves would be in charge of our affairs and that we would not be ruled by anybody else. And of course, it is the determination by the African People's Socialist Party, by African internationalists, that African people shall be self-governing and there shall never, ever, ever again, once we achieve our liberty, be a time where anybody else will dominate or rule Africa or African people. That is something that inspires and motivates every breath that we take. We want to have this discussion because we also recognize that the question of class is real. It wasn't something that we invented. It wasn't something that was so pronounced at the time where we met Europe and Europeans. But class and class struggle is very real. And despite the fact that class never looked exactly as it looks or as it has looked within Europe and perhaps some other societies, the intervention of Europe in the lives of Africa and African people introduced a class component to our societies based on the fact that this parasite lashed itself onto the basic fundamental means by which life produced and reproduced. And so there's a certain sector of the African population that owes its success to the continuing existence of the capitalist social system, that owes its ability to achieve benefits for itself, for its family and its friends, and sometimes for ethnic groups to the continuing existence of this social system. This is the introduction of the same kind of class contradiction that we see in Europe, and tied very much to the question of private property, even in places like in parts of Africa where there is no actual private ownership of land. So what has to occur is that in this era that we live in this era in which we struggle, that the African working class and the poor peasantry must be raised to the position of ruling class. And the African working class must assume responsibility first for liberating the entire